I'm going to read a story Jesus told. This actually comes right before the verses which I preached last week. So this is the story. So hopefully you remember what I was speaking last week. It's about the cup which the James and John wanted to drink, and the reward which Jesus was offering in the coming kingdom. But this is the story. I mean, that incident followed right after the story. This is the story. And I want you to listen to the story very carefully because it includes a lot of mathematical equations and numbers. So it's a little, there are a lot of numbers involved and math involved. So if you don't listen to it carefully, you won't get it. So this is the story. Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 to 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. When he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius for the day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to those he said, "You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you." And so they went. Again he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour, and he did the same thing. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why have you been standing here all day long, idle all day long?" They said to him, "Because no one hired us." He said to them, "You go into the vineyard too." When the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last group to the first." When those hired about the 11th hour came, each one received a denarius. When those hired first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they grumbled at the landowner, saying, "These last men have worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden and the scorching heat of the day." But he answered and said to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go. But I wish to give this to this last man the same as to you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with what is my own? Or is your eye envious because I am generous? So the last shall be first, and the first last." Have you ever felt being treated unfairly by somebody? Have you ever feel treated unfairly? In your college, in your office, in your home, in your church, by your pastor, by your teacher, by your boss, by your dad or mom? I have felt it, and we all feel it at some point, right? Because we are all human beings, and our perception can change depending on what happens, because we can see all sides. The point is, we have all felt at some point treated unfairly. But have you ever felt treated unfairly by God? Have you ever felt that God has been a little unfair to you? I don't know about you. I have felt it. I feel it quite often. I sometimes wonder, Lord, why are you doing this to me? And I'm not saying that I'm a good guy. I am not saying that I'm the best in the Lord. But I think you can go a little easy on me. You can go a little easy on me. Maybe I deserve better. I feel being treated unfairly. I can take it from a pastor or my dad or my mom, or not that anybody has treated me unfairly. I'm not accusing you of any of this. But when God, who is my anchor, is treating me unfairly, at least according to my perception, it is very, very difficult to bear, right? And this is a story which really delves deeper into that conundrum we all face. This is the ultimate act of unfairness. God almost admits that he is doing. Because I am reading the story over and over and over again to somehow justify what that master did. Because I know the master in that story is a representative or figurative of God, right? And I know I am preaching in a church to people who believe in that God. And I want to come up with something that will say that, well, that master is right. But I have that, I don't know. I don't know if I'm with the master on this or with the other people on this. I can't help but feel a sort of sense of grumbling, even I don't know. I don't know, God. Yeah, I understand. I get it. I get it. You are very generous. I get it. It's your money. And I get it that you can do whatever you want. But, see, the funny thing about this story is that the perception of unfairness comes when it not in relationship with the reward itself, right? Because 1 denarius is what they were offered. That's the master's logic. The master said, I told you I'll give you one denarius, and I gave you 1 denarius. Now, I'm pretty sure you already know this. Walson Uncle have preached about this many times. A denarius is exactly a day's wage. It's the fair amount. A denarius is actually defined as a day's wage. So whether you are an engineer or a doctor or, it's like a minimum wage or the fair amount for a day. So you get that 1 denarius, that means you're paid for a day. So it's a fair amount even whether master agreed it or not. So there is no question about that from the perspective of the reward itself. If you consider only the master and the laborer, there is no question about, there is no unfairness. They got the money they deserve and agreed upon and they got it. But the problem comes when we put other people into the equation, right? When we bring other people into the equation. Yeah, suppose you get hired for a job. I don't know what is a good salary here. Haven't been in an organization been on a salaried base for a long time. But what is a fair salary? Maybe $100,000. Somebody hires you for $100,000. I think it's a fair salary. $100,000, and you go in and you're happy. Man, I got $100,000. Very good. And you think the company is fair. Great job. You got that. And the next week you realize that your secretary is making $120,000. Right? Now then, that 100,000 looks less than minimum wages, right? Right? I mean, isn't it like, who are we kidding, right? We will all feel that. See, that's the problem here. It's not about the $100,000. I mean, that's a great salary, and the employee is very happy with the employer, but the problem is in relationship with the other people. When we come back, that's where the unfairness comes. And when we were coming home today, it's a funny thing happens every day in our house. And we have 2 teenage daughters, as you know. They are just a year and a half apart, right? So they always accuse us of unfairness, not funny way, right? So they buy this, they buy this expensive drinks. I'm an immigrant dad. Even if I'm so thirsty, I'll try to get home to make coffee or tea, but maybe I'll buy a coffee for $1.25. They only drink, frappuccino, cappuccino, whatever you call it, $5 something, boba tea, and, they put all these things into it, 1,500 calories in 1 cup, and so anyway, so they buy this. I'll pay for it, I want my kids to get, so I'll never say that don't buy it, but I won't buy it. Even if I get $100,000, I'm not going to buy that thing, right? So anyway, point is, so they both bring this, whatever, the boba tea or $5 cup, or bring it. So they bring it and they put the cup there. So I take one from my older daughter's, Hannah's cup, and I just took a sip. And so and that's something she cherished. I'm paying $5. I just need to know at least how it tastes, right? So I just take a sip. She is so upset that she lost that much amount, and because that's something she was dreaming, cherishing to have that, and so I looked at it. I looked at her. She didn't say anything. So then I looked at the other daughter, Emma. I also took, her cup and took another sip from her cup. Suddenly, the other one's face suddenly lightened up. She's so bright. Yeah, she doesn't feel that pain anymore. Because not just that I got their permission to share the story. So it's not that, as long as I'm unfair to everybody, that's okay, right? If you're fair to everybody, but if you're unfair, unfair to everybody, that's fine. The point is, the problem comes only in relationship with other people, right? Anyway, so in this story, there are three groups of people we can see, right? There are three groups of people, mainly categorized into three groups. One is the people who came early in the morning, right? So technically, the way, they say third hour, ninth hour, technically the way in the Jewish calendar, the way it works is, the hour starts from 6 a.m., 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when the day starts. So that's the 0 hour. So when you say third hour, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, right? When you say sixth hour, it is 12 in noon. And then ninth hour is 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So that's the way it works. So early in the morning, 6 o'clock, these people were standing there. And have you ever seen this anywhere? In India, it's very common. And even this time I went to India, I went with my brother-in-law who owns a small company, a small-scale industry. They make fertilizers. For creating fertilizers, they need manual laborers to kind of mix this whole thing up anyway. So he doesn't have any, he has some regular employees, but they always need help. So I went with him, just like this, early in the morning. You go there is this group of laborers are standing there. They don't have a permanent contract, employee, anything. So people will come and ask them for any kind of job they are willing to do. Anyway, so I went with them and we hired, brought all these people into this big SUV he has and then got the job done and then sent them off with their fare. So it's the kind of same scenario. You probably know this. So 6 o'clock, he goes there and he get a set of laborers and send them, right? Then he goes. So that's one group. That's the early people. That's the people who are there right from the beginning to the end, right? They were there for the whole 12-hour shift. They worked really hard, right? Okay, so then there was this another group of people, the third hour, sixth hour, ninth hour. So they were kind of wondering. The owner went and said, "What are you guys doing? Okay, why don't you go to the vineyard? I'll give you something what is right." So these people, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So then the 11th hour, that is 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. he goes back and he sees a bunch of people idling there doing nothing and said, "Well, why don't you go?" And they work. And they just work 1 hour, man, 1 hour. And they did not do anything spectacular or anything. If they just went for 1 hour and they did something magical, okay, I can understand them getting something. But they practically just did. At least we don't read anything that they did something extra special. So, and in the end, the master comes and he gives everybody the same amount. So that's not fair. The fair amount is, I'll tell you, if you have already done the math, right? You're Indian people, most of you, so you must be good at math. So what is the right math? So if the 5 p.m. people came, they got 1 denarius. So that means for hour, 1 denarius per hour, right? That's the rate. So people who came early enough, they should get 12. And the people who came at the third hour should get 9, and then 6, and 3. And then it will be fair. That's what is fair. That's what should have happened. But the master doesn't seem to think so. Like Bob said, he just decided the last second, and I'm going to save somebody. Take it or whether you like it or not, that's the way I'm going to do it. And now that happened in a literal way among the disciples too, right? Now this is something, this unfairness is something we will have to constantly struggle as we read through the gospel. For example, within the big disciples band, Jesus had an inner circle. Whenever he wanted to do something very important like transfiguration, The most spectacular thing if you ask me, it was even bigger than resurrection and ascension in a way. Jesus transfigured right in front of these people, and Moses and Elijah coming down. Man, what a spectacular thing. But Jesus said, I'm going to pick 3 of them. Yeah, if I am Matthew, of course I'm Matthew, but that Matthew or whoever else, right? Bartholomew or whoever, Judas or whoever, I will get a little offended by that. I don't think Jesus was fair, right? Or when he went to Gethsemane and he chose the same inner circle, he had an inner circle, Peter, James, and John. So it was not unfair. It was not fair, right? From that perspective. Then again, within the inner circle, he had an innermost circle. There was one disciple Jesus loved the most. So, see, there is this outer circle called disciples, within which an inner circle called the apostles, who are 12 people, and within that there is an inner circle where there are 3 people, and within the inner circle 3 people, there is Jesus as a very favorite man who always sits and leans on Jesus. Jesus loved him very dearly. And is that fair? Now, this is the funny part, okay? Now, this innermost circle man, the man who really loved the most, or the man who Jesus loved the most, he goes with Jesus to the very end on the cross, right? So he's watching what is happening on the cross. He loved Jesus to the extent that he basically risked his life and went and seeing what is happening on the cross. And then Jesus is, hanging, 2 other people are hanging with Jesus, or, being crucified with Jesus on either side. You know the story. And he turns around to one of them and he says, today, you are going to be with me in paradise. Man, if I am John, I will have a lot of questions to ask about that. The way Jesus said that, you have to read it very clearly, especially in the original language. Jesus did not say, a thief who is hanging on my right or left side, this thief, I'm going to give you a ticket to heaven. If Jesus said that, I can understand. Okay, poor guy, at least he recognized Jesus. Give him a ticket to heaven so that he can go to heaven. That's not what he said. The term Jesus used was very intimate. He said, today you are going to be with me. It's like my date. It's like my date. You're going to be with me. You're going to sit across the table with me today. John, you will have to wait. Peter, you'll have to wait. James, you'll have to wait. This guy is going to dine with me today. He is going to be with me. That word is very, very powerful. Like I said in last sermon, I said about heaven, the gradation of possibilities in heaven, right? I said heaven is like Los Angeles, just imagining, then there is Skid Row, there is Bel Air, or there is Beverly Hills. There is gradation of possibilities depending on your level of intimacy. So if I am John, I would say, okay, you can take him to heaven. Maybe he can be in Skid Row, or, in the Skid Row part of heaven or something like that. Somewhere you give him a quarters or something. That's all he deserved. This man was thieving and raping and murdering people while I was preaching with you and hanging out with you, Jesus. Now you chose to take him just like that, not only to Bel Air, but to your dining room right there. He is going to be with me. I'm not going to give you a ticket. He's going to be with me in paradise today, right here, right now. Now talk about unfairness. Talk about unfairness. See, the point is, there are 2 ways. See, this is why Christianity doesn't make sense to a lot of people. Christianity doesn't make sense to a lot of people. I'll try to explain this. It's a little philosophical, but there are 2 ways of looking at religion, okay? Listen to this. There are 2 ways of religion looking at the relationship between God and man. Okay? One is, let's picture it as a lens. Okay? Through lens. Okay? That's the only way we can perceive God and man. One is something we call karma. Karma. You know karma? It's an Indian word, Hindi word, right? And the moment we say karma, immediately we think about Hinduism. That's not really true. Hinduism is very basic in a sense, in karmic idea. But actually, all religions in the world, including the so-called Christian religion, is based on karma. Okay, karma is, what is karma? Karma essentially is this. Like, I mean, you probably know this, but I'm just kind of, some of you were at the Hinduism seminar. I didn't get time to explain this. But how many of you know the third law of thermodynamics, right? So isn't it the third law? Where to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So that's what basically karma is. To every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Whatever you do here, and it is going to have a spiritual or cosmic consequence. It is going to create a wave of energy, and you will have to repay it somewhere. Now, in all the Eastern religion, including, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism, all these three religions believe in something called reincarnation. Again, you don't really need this explanation. Essentially what it says is, depending upon your karma, depending on the action you did, this equal and opposite reaction will be accumulated in such a way that when you go to the next life, when you go to the next world, right, this accumulated karma will be used to take you to another stage in your life. If you have good karma, you get better, higher realm of life in the next circle, or otherwise. Or karma is like an elevator operator, So it's like an elevator. When you die, you go into an elevator. So if you have good karma, you cannot press the button. He will press the upper floor. You're good karma. Mathew, John, you're a nice guy. You're preaching and you're generally a nice guy. So, why don't you, he'll press the top floor, I'll go to the top. And some of you were not that nice, so they will press the basement, so you'll go all the way down. Anyway, that's a simple way of putting it, right? So the point is, so that's why when we say karma, we immediately think about Hinduism or Buddhism or Sikhism, the Eastern religion. But the other religion, the so-called Abrahamic religions, are also set up on the idea of karma, even though they don't say that. For example, in Judaism and Islam, for example, there is this whole idea of heaven and hell, a different interpretation of it. But it is all based on what you do, right? So it's like in Islam, it's like a balance. Like once you die, there's no elevator, but there is a big balance. And your good deeds are on one side and the bad deeds on the other side, whichever side, up or down, based on, there is this set places, heaven or hell. So it is also based on the idea of karma. And even in Christian religion, we tend to do that, right? Like, even though we know that's not theologically right, we still say, yeah. So it's all, you need to be a good person. It's all about being, you need to know Jesus, you need to get baptized, you need to go to church, everything. But you need to do good things. You need to help others, obviously, which you have to do. I'm not saying that. But somehow, unconsciously, we associate our afterlife or our spiritual or our eternity to this whole idea of karma. What you reap is what you sow, which is true in the Bible too. Then again, I said, because it is true in the sense, there are two verses I have to read. Galatians 6:7, Paul said, "For whatever a man sows, this he will also reap." Now, he's not talking about the afterlife. He's talking about the consequences and about rewards, not about destiny itself. Right? And there is another verse, even in the future life, you will have to pay for, what you do or what you don't do. There is an element of karma is there. I'm not saying that it's not there. Another verse, 2 Corinthians 5:10 says, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may be recompensed for the deeds in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad." What it says is, we are accountable for what we are doing. There is a consequence for our action in this world. That is very different from our destiny. What is going to happen to us? I'll tell you, just an example. I was talking about my teenage daughter, Hannah and Emma. Now, if you offend me, I am Pastor Mathew, I will forgive you. You offend me, you slap my one cheek, I'll show the other cheek. But if you slap both my cheek, then I may not punch you back, but you will not be welcome in my house. I will never entertain, I will never open the door for you. Because of your karma, what you did. to me, right? But there is nothing Hannah or Emma can do that will for me to shut their door in front of them. They might offend me more than you can imagine. They might do it. God forbid they won't do it. But it doesn't matter. Some of you are parents and you understand that. It doesn't matter what Hannah and Emma does to me. They are my children. It is based on their relationship. They will pay for the consequences. If they take a wrong action, they will pay for it in their own life, or in our circle they are associated. That is there. The consequence is there, but it doesn't change their destiny, because their destiny is not based on what they do, but it is based on who they are in their relationship with God. So this is why Christianity is diametrically different from all other religion. Did you know Christianity is the only religion which guarantees heaven for people? No other religion guarantees heaven for people. That's why when some Christians say, I'm going to die and go to heaven, people think it's arrogant. How can you say that? How dare you? How dare you say that? Going to heaven, you're so confident. But going to heaven is not up to us. That's why I'm confident. If going to heaven is up to me, then I'm not confident at all. Because going to heaven is based on God's grace for me. Now, this is where the second lens comes in. So the whole religion, including Christian religion, perceive the relationship between God and man based on this lens of karma. What you do is what you get. What you do is what is going to affect the destiny. Then comes this new lens only Christianity presents to the world. The verse is Titus chapter 2, verse 11. This is what it says. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all men. There is something new appears in the screen. There is something new appears. When all religions are pondering this problem of karma, here is something new God is doing. Grace of God appears, bringing salvation to all men. And grace of God is essentially saying that it is not what you do. It is not based on your merit. It is based on my relationship with you. I am going to make you my child. Once you become my child, what you do is not going to affect necessarily your destiny. The only thing that is going to affect Hannah or Emma not, entering my house is their own choice. If they decide to walk away, I cannot do anything. That is the only thing. The only thing that can stop you from going to heaven is you. Because you can decide, I'm tired of it. I don't want this. I want to go somewhere else. So it is not up to God in that sense. If you don't choose to go to heaven, that's as long as you choose to have that relationship with God, to have that relationship in Jesus, and then you are his child. And my favorite author, Philip Yancey, puts it this is his definition of grace. This is how he says, grace is nothing that you can do can make God love you more. Did you get that? It had to take a while to get that. Nothing that you do can make God love you more. Because you are his child. He already loves you. There is no way you can add to that love. In the same way, nothing that you can do will make God love you less. Because love is very different from this other reactionary thing that is happening in our relationship with God. The point I'm trying to make is, this is the parable of ultimate grace. The karma, the story we read today didn't make sense to us because we look at it from the lens of karma. Because there are 12, these people have 3 groups of people, have 3 different kinds of karma, and they didn't get according to their karma. That's why that we take it as unfair. But when we look at the other lens, there's the lens of grace. There is lens of grace involved. It's not based on what they do, but it is on their relationship. Let's go back to this parable with the new set of lens. Grace, the lens of grace. Interesting. The first group of, there's a subtle difference, right? But now when you go back with that lens, you see a subtle difference in this. First group of people, this is what the master said. When he had agreed with this is verse 2, when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius for the day, he sent them into his vineyard. So the point there is, they already had an agreement, right? The first group of people, when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius. So if I am in that earliest group of laborers, I have a contract. The contract is already negotiated. Do I need to worry about anything? It is an exact representation of what karma is. What you sow, you will reap. Contract is already signed. The master has already agreed. I'm going to go and do my job, and I'm going to get what I deserve. And that's exactly, it's a contractual relationship. There is nothing more involved. Everything is written down. Everything is defined. There's nothing more. Now, the second group of people, very interesting, there is a tone of change. Verse 4, and to those he said, you also go into the vineyard, and now there is no contract. There is no agreement. This is what he says, and whatever is right, I will give you. Now that's a little different from signing a contract, right? He didn't say a denarius. He didn't say that there is no contract, there's no sign. At the end of the day, the owner said, I'm not going to give you anything. They cannot hold him accountable because there is nothing defined. There is no contract signed. There is no amount mentioned. There are no terms. There are no rules or regulations. There are no laws concerning this. So there is a certain kind of faith involved. If you are in that group of people who are in the 3rd hour or 6th hour or 9th hour, you have to have a certain element of faith to follow this master. Because he has not given you anything in writing. There is no covenant. There is no contract. But there is a promise. There is a promise. And all you need is to have faith. I have faith in this master. So that's very different from the first group of people. The first group of people didn't have any faith. They didn't need any faith. They were there. But the second group of people, they needed a faith because they are following a promise. And the third group of people, what did he say? There was nothing. Basically, there is nothing. He said, and about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, why have you been standing here idle all day long? They said to him, because no one hired us. He said to them, you go into the vineyard. You go into the vineyard too. He didn't say anything about a reward at all. You see, for the other group, it was already mentioned, specified. The second group, he promised something. But the third group, no, you may not get anything. You have to take me at my word. And this group of people said, Lord, we are just ready to do anything. We've been sitting in this marketplace for the whole 11 hour, and everybody looked at us and made fun of us. They thought we are worthless, we are useless. That's why nobody picked us. And all we need is our dignity. And by asking us to go into your field, Lord, you have honored us. That's the best honor we can. We don't care about reward. We don't care about heaven or hell or anything. We just wanted to be with you because you give us dignity. You give us dignity. You loved us. You respected us. You made us who we are. And as laborers, there is nothing more make you more proud than the Lord, the Master, trusting you. Right? So they didn't have any contract. They didn't have promise. They didn't have contract. They didn't have karma. It operates on a complete level of grace. So in that way, the people who came at the 11th hour are more. In a way, when you look at the lens of grace, that people who came at the 11th hour deserved that reward more than the people who came at the first batch and the second batch. Did you follow that? Because the first batch and the second batch had something there, but the third people were completely on grace. They completely trusted him. And I'm going to end with this another story, which you already know. You remember when Jesus said another story. When he comes back to this world, he used the parable of sheep and goat, right? And sheep were on his right side, and the goats were on the left side. And, I'll just read that. He basically said for I was hungry. So, right right side, these people who are going to go to heaven, and Jesus looks at them, and he really loves them, he really appreciates them, and he says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." When he said that, their first response is, then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you a stranger and invited you in, or naked and clothed you? When did we see you sick or in prison and came to you?" The point is, they did not know they were doing a right thing. Did you get that? That was the most beautiful thing when I read that, because they were saying, we didn't know we were doing a good thing. We didn't know we were doing this great thing for the Lord. We just did it because that's all we know how to do. It was an unconscious operation of grace, which is you were bestowed in us. That is the way that is a spontaneous thing. That is something automatically comes out of us. They did not know it because they are going to get a tax receipt, or they are going to get a good reward from God. Because, Lord, we didn't even know we were doing it for you. Can we say that about the good things we are doing? We were not doing it because that was the right thing to do, because that's what we are taught to do. No, because that's the only thing we know how to do it. See, that's where the grace operates in another extreme, in that level.